Well, it is Sunday, and it is time for our conversations with Damien. You'll see I'm dressed down today, sitting on a stool today. I'm going to talk to you what it's like being you, what it's like being me, what is it like to be authentic. It's going to be heart to heart today. Do you know, last week, I put a post on, and the post said this: become so comfortable in who you are that no one's opinion or rejection will change you. And I get my share of unfan mail, if I can call it that. And I wore a suit last Sunday when I was teaching. And somebody writes, it's so easy for a rich white guy to say that. And just slams what I'm saying. And then somebody decides to write about the set. You know, this is a set, okay? This is a set. Behind here's a refrigerator. This is a set that I use to do a good presentation to you. I don't have all the technical skills, so I've got to use something that I think is going to be valuable in what I'm going to say. And somebody said, you know, because I'm a minister, right? They said, so how much did the parishioners have to pay for this beautiful place? And I was sharing some of these thoughts with a good friend of mine. And I had thought about saying something about them in the talk. And I thought, no, I would just kind of let it pass. And I shared them. And my friend said to me, why don't you just sit and talk next week and let people get to know you? He said, you know what? I learned so much when we just sit and talk and you share. And that's kind of what I'm going to do today, in a way, because I do these little shows, these little classes, as a way to help you become the best version of you that you can be. You don't have to agree with the things that I say, but at least look at a different opinion. So, what's it like being you? What's it like being me? It's impossible to know your own value unless you believe that you're truly valuable. And to form authentic relationships, we must learn to distinguish between people that make emotional withdrawals from us and our energy, and those that deposit our energy. Now, in 2005, I came back to the United States after being gone to find that I was going to be homeless and on the street. That's a story in itself. At 55 years old, not a pretty sight. But during that time, I also made the decision that I was going to be authentic. And I wasn't going to share parts of my life with people, but if they asked, I was going to tell the truth. I wasn't going to skate the truth, right? Now, the universe has a way of sending people to us. So one day, I'm working at the gym, and this lady says to me, where's my inspiration for the day? Because I would put an inspiration on the board every day for people that I would sit and meditate on. And I said, I'll get it done in a minute. And she said, hey, have you ever had Vietnamese food? I said, no. So she invited me to lunch. All I knew was that she was a nice lady. I didn't know much about her. That lady happened to be Ricky Kleeman. Maybe you've seen her on Bloods, or you've seen her on Court TV. She's the CBS News analyst out of New York, author, attorney extraordinaire. And we're sitting there having lunch, and she begins to ask me pointed questions about me. And I guess I turned kind of white, and the tears started rolling in my eyes and rolling down my face. And she said, "Oh no, I've asked too many personal things." And I said to her, I said, my commitment is that if people ask things, I'm going to tell. And I began to share with her painful parts of my life. And her response to me through her tears was, "You're a miracle. People need to hear what you have to say." And in the book, when she gave me a copy of her book, she writes that I live my life out loud. And from 2005 till now, I've made it a practice, sometimes succeeding really well, sometimes falling on my face, living my life out loud so that you can look at my life as an open book and take from it what you will. Now, I got married at 29, but let me back up. When I was 2 years old, I was an alcoholic. I went to live with my mother at 2 after my father died. I met her at my father's funeral. We lived in the back room of a bar where she turned tricks and ran the bar. So when 2 o'clock came and the bar closed, and I'm 2 years old, I'm drinking all the leftover drinks in the glasses. I'm washing the glasses for her while she entertains her men friends. And each night I would crawl up on this little bowling machine, lay down, and I thought I went to sleep. Now I realize I passed out. Several years later, I went to live with my paternal grandparents. And in going to live with them, they were classical Pentecostal, and I'm not putting that down, but if it was fun, if it was fashionable, it was called sin. We didn't even watch television, okay? But between that time and after my mother just disappeared, there was sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse that I had buried, and did not even remember, and quit speaking for 4, 5, maybe 6, 7 years of my life. Didn't speak at all, and had to be taught how to speak all over again. And can you believe that a couple of weeks ago somebody actually commented on my speaking, and that they found that it wasn't pleasing to them, not what I was saying, but how I spoke. And anyway, so at 29, I had my own TV show, gospel show, and people thought I needed to get married because people thought I was gay, and I didn't know what gay was then. And to my knowledge, I had never had sex with anybody at that time before I got married. And you know, when we marry, most of us take on the role of husband and wife, and then there's the father, there's the mother, and we do whatever is acceptable to maintain that marriage. And in an attempt to make this love last, we start keeping things to ourselves. We withdraw. We manipulate with words and with our deeds. And we even try to change our partner into what we imagined them to really be when we met them And when we meet people, we're usually putting on a mask. So the person you marry sometimes is quite different than the mask they were wearing. And even with the words that are spoken like love and stuff, there is a passion and an intimacy that vanishes. And we long for that connection, but we fear rejection and loss to the point that we walk around feeling empty and lonely without intimacy. Now, I know that guys especially, gay guys especially, feel this, because gay guys, we can do sex 1,001 different ways. We can hang from our tails from the chandeliers. We can do acrobats. But when it comes to having intimacy into me, see, we don't have a clue. Because how can we have somebody see into us when we don't even see into ourselves? We're not even authentic to ourselves. Now, it's no secret that I've had sex with several men, thousands of men, okay? Let's just get that out there. And I don't think that I've been intimate with one single one of them, that I've experienced intimacy. Sure, I've swung from the chandeliers, but it wasn't the intimacy. I hid the relationships I had. I hid who I was and who I am, not only from them, but from who I am to myself. I didn't know. I couldn't, 50 years of my life, I prayed every single day, God, kill me, I'm going to die right now. Most of my life, I was afraid to die and scared to live. What a place to be in. How do you maneuver with that? I was a freak on this earth that didn't fit anywhere. And not knowing who I was, what I was, trying to be something for everybody and maneuver. Oh, what an emotional mess. And the pain that has been down inside this body. And when I share things with you and I teach these lessons, these spiritual lessons to you, they come out of those deep wells of pain. And I often say that wells of joy are often dug with steam shovels of sorrow. And that is so true. Oh, but we must learn to be honest with ourselves and to feel our emotions and to identify our needs. And most of us have become numb to the feelings and clueless to whatever it is that we need because of the shame of our childhood, things that we were shamed or made to feel guilty for. And the one thing that I've realized is that when one feeling is unacceptable, they all more or less begin to shrivel all the feelings we have. And as a consequence, we start shutting down our aliveness. That thing inside us that gives us life. And when we don't acknowledge our needs, they don't get met. I say you cannot heal what you cannot feel. Authenticity is the opposite of shame. It reveals our humanity and allows us to connect with others. Brene Brown, the great research author, she writes a book called The Gift of Vulnerability, and the gift of being where we are able to express our authentic self to people. Shame creates toxic and dysfunctional relationships. I could tell you about those. But if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, if you're in a toxic relationship, I got news for you. You are toxic just as much as the person that is toxic to you. You've got to share in that toxicity. You have got to share in what it is that you're bringing to it. So beliefs. Wow. If we don't talk about it, it doesn't have to exist. Don't ask, don't tell. Good. Don't ask about my life, and I don't have to tell you that on my wedding night we never had sex because I had no idea what was going to go on. I mean, that changed after a while. Do you know, I've been HIV 36 years or so, right? I've only come out with it in the last couple of years. My good friend Nicholas Snow, Homo Promo TV, right? He wrote a book called Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart. I read his book. I sat, I cried, I cried, I cried, and I cried, and I wept, and I cried, and I read some more. And with the authenticity that he shared his truth, gave me the courage to come out publicly about mine without raising money or something, but just to really connect and to make a difference. So beliefs that we have, belief systems develop authenticity if we allow it. But in the middle of belief, B-E-L-I-E-F, is the word lie. Have you ever noticed that? And our beliefs become habits, and our habits become our character, and that becomes who we are. So my question, kind of a question, is how many things do you believe that are actually lies, are based on lies? How many things do you believe that you question? Because we believe lies, and those lies become our truth and become who we are. For instance, I have felt like I was damaged goods. A great majority of my life, damaged goods. So ugly nobody would ever want me, yada, yada, yada. Things that were said to me that put me down, that I was stupid, I was retarded, on and so forth. And pretty soon, those people don't have to say those things to you anymore because you have taken them and ingrained them as a belief that you say it to yourself subconsciously. So what's it like being you? My friend Ricky Kleeman, her parents called her Miss Remarkable. If you know Ricky, you'd know she is remarkable. Ricky has no idea that she's anything but remarkable. She shows up remarkable. That is what the belief was that she has and wrapped around her and becoming authentic. Ooh, there's no shortcut to becoming authentic. It requires real work, real commitment. I remember after having this talk with her, I couldn't go back. There was no going back. I dove deeply into my emotional mess. I started feeling the pain that I had repressed. I started making daily commitments to take steps to be authentic. And as I say, sometimes I fall down on it, but I recognize and get back up. I found a willingness to embrace my imperfections, like I'm doing now, and sharing them with other people. I started speaking and writing and living my life out loud. I had to acknowledge some unpleasant truths about myself, to myself. I had to start repairing my self-worth and my confidence and commit to making a change. Can I ask you a question? Can I make a statement and a question? Get clear and admit why you're holding on to your pain. And the question is, why do you think it serves you? Why do you think holding on to your pain serves you? You see, my daily practice, I take care of my mind, my body, my spirit. I nurture a loving relationship with myself, because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Authentic people accept their life experiences and feel the emotions that arise. Anxiety and guilt rise up from not being present. I've disrespected myself without even realizing it by allowing others to influence major decisions in my life. I got married because I was supposed to. My wife was gorgeous, beautiful. She was picked out for me. I've had a husband. Our divorce should be final soon. I got caught up in gay marriage. I knew from the beginning that it should have just been a fling, and I allowed others to influence my major decisions because I didn't trust myself to make choices for myself. Oh boy, I've defined my self-worth by comparing myself to others. Can I get really real here? I valued my self-worth by if gay guys found me attractive or not. Instead of valuing myself, I disconnected, and it's like, ooh, if you find me attractive, then I must be worth something. And it was a lot to move from that. It requires real vulnerability to be authentic. Now there's a book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. That book helped change my life. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And y'all that are in the Four Agreement discussion, you'll like this part on it. But authentic people are impeccable when they speak to themselves, about themselves, and others. I want you to get that in your head in this What's It Like Being You? Authentic people are impeccable when they speak to themselves, about themselves, and others. Oh, I'm such a bitch, you know. That's not something authentic people say. Authentic people speak to themselves. Impeccability about themselves, to themselves. Remember what I said earlier, you cannot heal what you cannot feel? You may see an action that isn't so hot that you don't like, but you don't have to be that action. You don't have to be that. You can say, oh my, that is an action that I'm working on. Authentic people don't allow their fears to prevent them from being themselves. Being authentic is a daily practice. It's a moment by moment choice of embracing your truth and being fearless enough to share it with the world. I'm going to tell you something. When you have nothing to hide and you are free to be yourself with everyone, there is a profound peace and confidence that you exude to the world. Now in San Diego, there's a wonderful human treasure to San Diego and to the world. His name is Big Mike. He does so much charity work in San Diego. If you're not a friend of his on Facebook, you need to be. He has so many inspirational things to say. But the other day, he put an inspirational post on his wall, and this is what it said. And I'm going to read it to you. Give yourself permission to live a big life. Step into who you are meant to be. Stop playing small. You're meant for greater things. And you know I'm always quoting one of my teachers, Marianne Williamson. Marianne says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. So, being gay, being authentic, being gay is far from easy. Talk about that for a minute. You know, as a child, you're different. You don't even know you don't know you're gay. You just know you're different. You know you don't fit in. You know that you just know you don't fit in, and there's nobody like you anywhere. But you know that you're different. You came from outer space somewhere. You're sure of it. So you get bullied as a child, and if you're young and you find out you're gay, then you get bullied for being gay, right? But then you get bullied by other gays for being a certain type of gay. You're too tall. Oh, you're not my type, you're too short. Oh, you're too young. Oh, you're too old. Oh, you're too skinny. Oh, you're too fat. Oh, you're too hairy. Oh, you're too smooth. You're too femme to be a top. And you're too butch masculine to be a bottom. All of this coming from the LGBTQ community that keeps saying, be yourself. You know, I love it when you go to these ads and they say, straight acting. I want somebody that's straight acting. Really? You want somebody that's going to be acting? Don't you want somebody who's going to be authentic in who they are? And somebody that you can have intimacy into me see? And you see into them and see their heart and what their passion is? I don't want to be with anybody that's acting out anything. So what's my life like? And what's yours like? Well, you see, before the COVA, one of my transgender friends called me crying. And she said my sister committed suicide, meaning her trans sister. I said, oh my gosh. She said she was 19 years old. It's okay. She explained that the family had disowned her. And because she committed suicide, that her body couldn't just be released to anybody. and they didn't know what to do. I said to her, I said, you know what? I said, you get all the details that I'm going to need. I'll be there in 2 days. So she got all the details together, people I needed to see, paperwork. And I went to see the parents. And you who like to criticize my set and my clothes and the stuff I say, go ahead and slap me down now. The good Christian parents that had told people that their son was dead years ago. I sat with them for over 3 hours, sat with a hateful man and his wife who he controlled, and I'm sure was emotionally abusive too. And after a little over 3 hours was finally able to convince them to release the body to us so that we could do a cremation. And all that time the man refused to acknowledge the transgender daughter, and even refused to acknowledge the name of the child, either transgender or what the name of the child was born with. It was horrible. So what's my life like? I use my experience to reach out and make a difference. I was thinking today, my life in religion and how some people don't believe in God, and they say, God never did anything to me and for me. Well, it's because you think God is a person instead of God being a creative energy that you lean into and become part of. About 10 years ago, well, every Christmas I get a Christmas card from New York. About 10 years ago, Matt called me in the middle of the night. Let me tell you about Matt. Matt was living in Texas, and he went over to his Trick's house, high as a kite. And Matt was going to trick with this guy and then commit suicide afterwards. Now, when I say to you, what I see in you, I see in me, otherwise I wouldn't know what it was. Believe me, I know what suicide looks like. That's why when I share something with you, it's not from some book, although I'm educated. It's from here, I understand the pain. And his trick happened to have one of my videos that he was watching. And the trick says, what do you think of this guy? And Matt said, he's full of shit, quote unquote. And because my phone number's everywhere, so people can reach me if they need me, or if I need to find a resource for them. They got high, and the more they got high, then they called and acted up and acted out, and I actually answered the phone that early morning, which I don't always. And he ripped me a new one. And he told me that his father, who pastored a nice-sized church, had shot his mother and then shot himself, killed himself. And that just he and his sister are left. And the church and his sister and everybody involved blame him for this whole thing because he's gay. They would not even allow him to come to the funeral. So I talked to Matt. Well, I listened for an hour as he ringed me. And finally I got him to agree to work with me for a month. I said, will you work with me for 1 month? We're going to work together every day for a month. Sometimes long distance. Sometimes I would go there. I said, work with me for a month, and if you still feel this way, go ahead, commit suicide. He began to work with me for a month. He began to see himself in a different way. Long story short, Matt and his husband have a couple adopted kids, live in New York, 10 years later doing fine. So when y'all want to criticize me because you don't like the way I talk or the way my hair looks or the set because of the stairs coming down, or maybe when you're doing something to make a difference in somebody's life, that might be where your energy's better spent. Because what's it like being you? Do you know, there's a precious lady, and her son had problems with drugs. Using, selling. Smart kid. I loved this boy. He was my son as far as I was concerned. I took him in when he was staying in sleazy motels with guys for a place to stay. And he finally moved to Florida, was doing really well. And as happens sometimes, got mixed up with a different crowd there. Came back out here visiting. Ended up in Las Vegas for just a weekend. I was going to see him on his birthday the next week. And for several years he was missing. And they finally found his body out in the desert, dead. So you see, his mother I still reach out to, and I love her. And I extend who I am to her. That comfort to her. Because rather than all the crap that we have going on of knocking down the Asians and killing the blacks and the policemen doing what they're doing and all the shit that's going on in this world, we're going to destroy ourselves if we don't straighten up and realize we are here to be the expression of love on this planet. And that is what it's like being me, being the expression of love. It's not always convenient. Being authentic, cleaning up your emotional mess, and feeling the pain that you've repressed so that you're able to reach out and share with somebody else. Being rude is easy. It doesn't take much effort. And if I'm being honest with you, being rude is a sign of weakness and insecurity. Kindness. I talk a lot about kindness. Kindness shows great self-discipline and strong self-esteem. Being kind isn't always easy to these bitches that are rude. Believe me, sometimes I'd like to just take one of my fingers and sometimes I'd like to give them a piece of my mind. But I stop and I do the meditation. I do the breathing. And I get in contact with who I am, and I remember I'm here to be the expression of love. That is what I'm here for. Kindness is a sign of a person who has done a lot of personal work and has come to a great self-understanding and wisdom. Choose to be kind over being right. And guess what? You'll be right every time. because kindness is a sign of strength. So what's it like being you? Only you know that. What's it like being me? I've shared some of my, what would I call them? Some of the things you don't know about me when you look and you think that some of my imperfections. When you look at me and you think that, oh, I'm so perfect. Here's a spiritual teacher that's so perfect. No, I'm still doing the work. I'm still working on it. Every day, every moment, being present in gratitude every single day. And until next week, when I'll probably be dressed up again because it'll be more of a teaching thing rather than a talk for myself. This talk was from me to you about us being authentic and being part of each other. But remember, as I say, kindness is the language that the deaf can hear. Kindness is the language that the blind can see. And my friends, kindness. When you speak kindness and are impeccable with your word to yourself, about yourself and others, nothing but gratitude and blessing comes your way. No music today, no breathing today, just you and me on a one-to-one. I'm so glad you've joined me today. I'll see you next Sunday, 2 o'clock.